Welcome to HFY Codex. If you love epic sci-fi stories where humanity shines, you're in the right place. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for thrilling HFY adventures. Join us and be part of the journey. Asterisk, the girl in the garbage. Pit asterisk, the air on the mining colony was thick with smoke and dust. Machines growled in the distance, and the sky above was always gray. People moved fast, eyes low, always working, always tired. No one looked around, no one cared, no one asked questions. Mason stepped off his small trade ship and walked into the lower levels of the colony. He was here for spare parts, maybe old tech he could repair and sell. He had been to many places across the galaxy, but this place felt colder, not because of the air, but because of the silence in people's hearts. He passed a food stall and saw a few children laughing. They were throwing old food towards something in the trash pit. At first, Mason thought it was an animal, maybe a stray crawler, but when he looked closer, he froze. It was a girl, small, thin, covered in filth, her arms like sticks and her skin dry and gray. She had long ears and big, frightened purple eyes that darted around like a hunted animal. She crawled on her hands and knees, picking up scraps with shaking fingers and shoving them into her mouth. The children laughed louder, and through more garbage, some adults walked by and didn't even glance to them. She was nothing, just another creature in the dirt. But Mason couldn't move. He saw the way her eyes locked onto every crumb, how fast she moved before others could take it. He saw her fingers bleed when she dug into sharp metal, but she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just kept eating. He stepped forward, and the children stopped laughing. "Hey, don't touch that thing," someone said from behind. "She bites," another warned. But Mason didn't listen. He knelt near the edge of the pit and slowly unwrapped a warm food packet from his jacket. The girl froze, her body shaking, her eyes fixed on the food. Mason placed the packet on the ground and backed away slowly. She didn't move at first, but then she crawled toward it. One hand stretched like she expected it to vanish. She grabbed it and sniffed it, then looked at Mason like she didn't. "Trust him. It's yours," Mason said softly, his voice calm. The girl opened it and began to eat. Not like a child, but like someone starving for years. She didn't speak, didn't thank him. Just ate with tears in her eyes. Mason sat nearby, not saying anything, just watching her. That's when he noticed something strange. Around her neck was a necklace, covered in dirt, but the metal underneath still shined. It was shaped like a crescent moon with tiny symbols carved into it. Mason had seen something like it before, a museum about royal dynasties that had vanished during ancient wars. This girl wasn't just a starving stray. She was something else, something forgotten, something lost. But nobody here cared. They only saw her dirty skin and broken body. "Come with me," Mason said, holding out his hand. The girl backed away at first, clutching the food packet like treasure. "I won't hurt you," he said again. His voice was soft, not demanding, not like the others. She looked at his hand, then at his eyes. There was no fear in his face, only patience. Slowly, very slowly, she crawled closer. Her tiny hand touched his, and he felt how cold and fragile she was. He pulled her gently from the pit. Wrapping his jacket around her small frame, people stared. Some shook their heads. Some muttered insults, but Mason didn't care. He carried her through the market like a father holding his own child. Back at his ship, he gave her warm water and a blanket. She sat in the corner, silent, watching him like a shadow. When she fell asleep, Mason sat at the control panel, still thinking about that necklace. He looked at her curled-up form, so small, so alone. "Who are you?" He whispered to the stars outside, but deep inside, he already knew she wasn't a creature. She wasn't trash. She was a secret the galaxy had forgotten, and he had just found her again. Asterisk, the truth in her eyes. Asterisk, the ship was quiet, floating. Above the colony's dead skies, Mason sat near the bunk where the little alien girl slept, her tiny frame wrapped in soft blankets. She didn't talk, didn't smile, but her eyes followed him carefully. Every move he made, she watched, not like a child, but like someone who had learned to fear everything. She still clutched the food packet from before, even while sleeping. Mason didn't take it away. He knew what hunger did to someone. He had seen it during the war on planets where no one came back to help. He opened the ship's scanner and quietly ran a light DNA test. Not because he wanted to invade her privacy, but because he needed to know who she was. She had no ID chip, no records, nothing that matched the common database. But the necklace she wore was the key. He placed it under a microanalyzer, cleaning the dirt from the edges, beneath the filth. The metal shined like ancient gold. There were symbols he had seen once in a forgotten archive, royal marks tied to the Aravel line. A bloodline wiped out during a galactic civil war over 40 years ago. That war had destroyed 3 systems, and all the royals had vanished. Some said they were executed. Others believed they escaped and lived in hiding. Mason now stared at the face of a child who might carry that blood. He looked over at her, the way she curled into the corner like she expected to be kicked. "You're not just anyone," he whispered under his breath. She opened her eyes, purple, wide, ancient. She didn't understand his words, but somehow she knew what he felt. She blinked once, slow, then looked away. Later, Mason tried to talk to her using simple gestures. He pointed to himself, Mason, then to her. Gently raising his eyebrow, she hesitated, then whispered, "A." Relly? The name hit him like a shockwave. Aureli? The last rumored daughter of Queen Saritha. Aurelian, the same queen who vanished with her children before the royal fleet was destroyed. Most believed none survived. He tried not to show emotion. But she saw it. She reached toward him, touched his hand, and tilted her head, just like a curious animal testing safety. Mason didn't pull away. Suddenly, the ship's console beeped. A message appeared, encrypted and cold. "Turn over the specimen," it said. Coordinates provided, reward guaranteed. No name, no sender, only numbers and threats hidden beneath polite words. Mason stared at the screen for a moment, then deleted the message without a second thought. He shut the system down and turned to Aureli. She was now standing quietly, watching him with a strange kind of wisdom in her eyes, the kind no child should ever have. That night, she didn't sleep in the corner. She sat beside him in the control room, her head resting against his arm. Mason didn't ask why. He knew. She had felt something a shift in the wind, danger coming the next morning. Mason walked into the city's upper district to buy supplies. He heard the whispers, felt the eyes on his back, humans keeping astray. Someone muttered, "They say he's hiding something worth more than a warship," said another. Mason returned quickly, eyes sharp. Hand near his sidearm. He checked the ship's sensors. 2 unregistered ships had docked nearby. No call signs, no trade activity, just silence and black holes. Hunters. He checked on Arella. She was gone. Panic surged through him as he searched the small ship. He found her hiding inside the emergency panel beneath the floor. She had locked herself in, holding her necklace and staring at the dark like it was her old friend. "You knew they'd come," Mason said, kneeling beside the hatch. She nodded. Slow and calm, he opened the hatch and pulled her out, holding her close. "I won't let them take you," he promised. She looked up at him again, her voice soft and unsure. "Promise?" Mason nodded. "I swear on every star left in the sky," he said, and for the first time, Aureli smiled just a little, just enough to light the room. The hunt begins. Asterisk the ship lights flickered as Mason ran diagnostics for the third time. Everything looked fine, but something still felt wrong. Aurelie sat quietly near the wall. Folding old cloth into strange shapes, she didn't talk much, but she watched everything with sharp eyes. Mason had been a traitor for years. But now he moved like a soldier again. His hand never strayed far from the blaster hidden in his jacket. He checked the outside cameras every 10 minutes, and each time, he saw the same thing: 2 black ships that hadn't moved. They had no flags, no names, and no crews walking out. They just waited. Like wolves around a campfire, Aurelie didn't ask questions. But her body had grown tense. She no longer slept deeply, always halfway awake. Always listening. One evening, Mason gave her an old tablet loaded with Earth music. She held it like a treasure. Listening to a soft piano song as it played, tears filled her eyes, but she didn't cry out. Instead, she looked at him and whispered, "I remember." Mason paused, then asked softly, "What do you remember?" She shook her head slowly. A big place, full of lights, people with crowns, everyone gone. Her voice broke at the last word, and she wiped her face quickly. He didn't push her, but that night, Mason knew the truth. Someone had hidden her well. Maybe even sacrificed themselves to protect her now, after all these years. The wolves had found her scent again. He ran the ship's deep scan, activating systems he hadn't touched in years. He found something strange buried in the old ship's core-locked function, marked AR Princess. Curious, he tried to open it, but the screen flashed red, authorization required. It said Aurelie walked over and, without asking, touched the screen with her small hand. The console glowed blue, then unlocked fully. A hidden voice came online, deep and smooth. "Welcome, Princess Aurelie of House Aurelian, Royal Access." Granted, Mason stared in shock as the ship's system began upgrading itself. New controls lit up, weapons powered on, and a secret AI began speaking. Threat level, high. Protocol shift, escape and protect royal heir. The AI scanned Mason and paused, human detected. Roland known. Aurelie stepped forward and said one word. "Guardian." The AI blinked once, then accepted it. "Guardian Mason, permission acknowledged." Mason sat back in his chair, stunned. This little girl had just changed everything he thought he knew. Suddenly, the warning alarms blared. 3 drones launched from the black ships outside, small, fast, armed with plasma cannons. Mason took the pilot's seat. Hands flying across the controls, Aurelie stayed beside him, calm and still. "Hold on tight," he said, turning the ship toward the open sky. The drones fired, but Mason's ship moved faster than before. The AI-controlled systems dodged the blasts with ease. One drone came too close, and Aurelie pressed a button on the screen. A burst of energy shot out from the ship's tail, disabling the drone instantly. The other 2 pulled back, waiting, calculating. But Mason didn't wait. He triggered the hyperdrive and set coordinates for deep space. The stars stretched into lines, and the ship vanished in a flash. Inside, the air fell quiet again. Mason leaned back, heart pounding. You flew us out," he said to Aurelie. She looked up. "The ship knows me, but I didn't do it alone." They sat together in the silence, the stars now calm around them. Mason looked at her and smiled. "You're full of surprises, little Royal." She didn't smile back, but she gently leaned against his arm. Softly, she whispered, "I'm not alone anymore," and Mason, for the first time in years, felt like he was finally needed for something greater than trading parts. Asterisk, from scrap to crown. Asterisk, the stars outside were no longer cold. They shimmered like soft lights in a quiet room. Mason stood at the front of the ship while Aurelie slept in the back. Her head rested on a soft pillow. her arms wrapped around an old blanket. But the ship wasn't silent. The Royal AI had begun speaking to Mason in private. "You must take her to a ruthless," it said, coordinates locked. Hidden sanctuary of the fallen royal bloodline. Mason didn't know the place, but the AI called it the cradle of her people. He input the destination, hands slightly shaking. He had once delivered food to war-torn planets, but this felt different. He was delivering the last living heir of a forgotten empire. The jump took 2 hours. When they exited lightspeed, the planet appeared slowly green, gold, and full of light, hidden by clouds and a ring of debris. No one would have noticed it without the AI's guide. The scanners showed a city deep inside the forest, glowing with ancient energy. Mason landed near the edge and stepped outside with Aurelie. The air smelled clean, fresh, and sweet. Aurelie's eyes lit up as if she had seen this place in a dream. She reached down and touched the grass like it was sacred. Suddenly, figures appeared from the trees-tall aliens with golden cloaks and weapons made of crystal. Their eyes went wide when they saw her. They dropped to one knee, and the oldest among them spoke. "Your blood returns," he whispered, voice trembling. Aurelie stood still, unsure. Mason stepped forward, standing slightly in front of her. "She's been hunted," he said. "She's tired, but she's alive." The elder looked at him, then at her, and bowed again. They led them through the glowing forest to a temple shaped like a spiral shell. Inside, the walls lit up with symbols when Aurelie walked past. The necklace on her chest pulsed softly, reacting to the place. She was not just welcome, she was expected, in a grand hall filled with stars in the ceiling. The elders spoke. "She is Aurelie, daughter of Saritha, last flame of the Aurelian blood." "We thought she was gone," said one. "Now she returns in the hands of a human." They turned to Mason. "Who are you to her?" Mason didn't speak for a moment. He looked at Aurelie, then said, "I'm just the man who saw her when no one else did. I didn't rescue a princess," he added. "I rescued a child who needed someone." Aurelie walked to his side, held his hand tightly, and faced the room. "I want him with me," she said, voice stronger than before. "He fed me. He held me. He never asked for anything. He is not my servant," she continued. "He is my family." The room was silent. Then slowly, the elders nodded in agreement. A crown made of light was brought forward, resting on a glass pedestal. The elder held it out to Aurelie, but she turned to Mason first. "Will you stay?" she asked, eyes wide and unsure. Mason smiled gently, brushing dust from her cheek. "I will stay," he said, "as long as you need me." She took the crown, not placing it on her head, but holding it in both hands. Then she looked around the hall, lifting her chin. "I won't rule with fear," she said. "I will build something better." The people bowed, not just to her, but to the future she promised. Later that night, in a quiet room with stars outside the window, Aurelie looked at Mason. "I used to eat from the trash," she whispered. "Now they call me princess." He smiled, placing a warm hand over hers. "I never saw a girl in the trash," he said. "I saw a light hiding under dust." And in the silence that followed, no more words were needed. A broken galaxy had found its hope in a girl, once left to starve on the human who saw her worth when no one else did. The end.